Mike Sherman says his granddaughter caught COVID, and it was a frightening experience.
Very scary because you don't know if it's serious, especially when they didn't have their shots.
Thankfully, she recovered completely. But now that we're all shifting to a less intense phase of the pandemic, more kids are showing up at the pediatrician's office with cough, colds, and fevers, sometimes more than one virus at once.
We do have parents coming in wondering why all of a sudden in the last few months their kids have been getting more sick than they're used to.
That's Dr. Marcus DeGraw, chief of pediatrics at Ascension St. John Children's Hospital in Detroit. He says masking, stay-at-home orders, and remote schooling means that a lot of children missed out on regular day-to-day interaction with peers and exposure to common viruses and bacteria,
which creates gaps in our immune system's memory, making it less effective when we are then re-exposed to those same infections in the future.
And in some cases, those young immune systems are learning to fight viruses for the first time. But that doesn't mean that the immune systems of our children is any weaker, just less experience. And while kids may be getting sick more frequently post-COVID, they're just being exposed to the same viruses and bugs that they would have been exposed to if it weren't for the pandemic. They're really just catching up with no long-term consequences.
They're going to get it now, or they're going to get it when they're 4 or 5 and they start in school. And so there's really not much different.
But some viruses are behaving in new and peculiar ways. The common cold, influenza, and RSV are all in play well after the traditional cold and flu season.
We're seeing RSV and influenza act weird and show themselves in a different seasonality than we're used to. And that's cause for attention.
But not concern. Dr. DeGraw says upper respiratory cases are still lower than in normal years and slightly less severe as well. Even so, grandfather Mike Sherman says his daughter and the entire family are watchful, knowing that more interaction will bring a greater chance for sickness.
You're always concerned about whether or not all the kids are carrying some type of flu or influenza or perhaps a COVID.
Well, Dr. DeGraw says kids average about 1 or 2 upper respiratory infections every month. And that's just the average child. That number increases if they're in daycare, in school, or live in households with multiple children. And whether it's one or more viruses that the kid is fighting at any one time, it's really not that big a deal. We're just all a little more sensitive in a new COVID world. Keenan Smith, 7 Action News.